On behalf of Art at America Society, we would like to welcome you tonight to this conversation between Raul Mourão and curator Jess Wilcox, moderated by America Society Director and Chief Curator Aimee Iglesias Luquin. They're going to discuss on the recently installed cage head sculpture and on Raul's body of work. So we are pleased to collaborate on this program with the Sculpture Committee for the Fund for Park Avenue and Nara Roessler Gallery. We would like to highlight the team effort behind this program and how the Fund of Park Avenue helped to make New York City an art center. We want to thank Barbara McLaughlin, President of Fund for Park Avenue, Julia Herzberg, our historian, independent curator, and member of the Sculpture Committee of Fund of Park Avenue, as well as Ron Spencer, head of the Sculpture Advisory Committee, Rachel Treader, director Nara Roessler, and Daniel Roessler. Thank you all for coming. So, for the organization of tonight's event, as well, of course, the panelists. Now I'm going to introduce the panelists, Raul Mourão and Jess Wilcox, and I want you to remind you that after the conversation, there is some time for Q&A. So please, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask these at the end. There is going to be a reception after. There is going to be a reception after the panel, and the galleries will be open in case you would like to visit our current exhibition, Bispo do Rosario, All Existing Materials on Earth, which is closing on May 20th. Raul Mourão, working across various media, including installation, sculpture, photography, video, drawing, and performance. Mourão is a leading figure in the generation of artists that emerged into Rio de Janeiro's art scene in the 90s. Commenting on subjects from everyday life to political or social constructs, his work is permeated by a critical sense of humor and shaped by the urban space. Mourão's visual vocabulary proposes displacements and redefinitions of familiar symbols and forms in contemporary society to encourage reflections on space, urbanism, and social mores. Jess Wilcox is an independent curator with a focus on environmental, socially engaged, and public art. She's currently working with the River Valley Arts Collectives to guest curate an exhibition opening in May 2023. From 2016 to 2022, she was curator and director of exhibitions at Socrates Sculpture Park. There, she curated several groups and solo exhibitions, including Helioitisika Subterranean Penetrable Projects, PN15, Guadalupe Maravilla, Planeta Abuelx, and Monuments Now, among others. Now, I want to welcome, hi, Julia. Now I want to welcome our historian and independent curator, Julia Herzberg, who is member of the Sculpture Committee, as I mentioned, for the Fund of Park Avenue. And she's a key figure on this project, connecting all the dots, all the institutions together. So thank you very much. She will also give a few introductory remarks. Welcome, Julia.
Second page, yeah. Raul Mourão's cage head was completed and installed, as most of you know, at the end of last month in front of America Society. The artist's postmodern sculpture, based on the unlimited possibilities of a grid structure, on the play of geometric forms and rhythms created by balance and stasis, is the first of a series of exhibitions for the Park Avenue malls this year. The Park Avenue Sculpture Advisory Committee for the Fund of Park Avenue is delighted to present Raul Mourão, the first Brazilian sculpture to exhibit on Park Avenue. To bring this to light, the Sculpture Committee has worked closely with America's Society, the Artists Gallery, Nara Roessler, and the Parks Department of the City of New York. The result of this elaborate, multi-stage, year-long planning has drawn on the efforts and skills of many professionals. I'd like to acknowledge Ame Iglesias Lucan, Director and Chief Curator of Art at America Society, who thoughtfully considered Raul Mourão as an ideal candidate when we first discussed the parameters of this project. Barbara McLaughlin, the president of the Fund for Park Avenue, who submitted the proposal to and worked with Elizabeth Marcella, who's here tonight, senior public art coordinator of Art and Antiques in the Parks Department, Rachel Treader, a director of the Galleria Nara Rossler in New York, who interfaced with the artist and with Elizabeth Marcella throughout the production of Cagehead. Daniel Rossler, senior curator and partner at Nara Rossler, for supporting this project from its beginning, and Ronald Spencer, chairman and CEO of the Paula Krasner Foundation, who oversees the Fund for Park Avenue and the Sculpture Committee. On behalf of the committee, we're proud to have collaborated with these three organizations on this spectacular sculpture that so vibrantly intersects with the surrounding patterns of vehicular and pedestrian traffic and seasonal plantings, while maintaining both fixity and movement on a major global urban avenue, recognized for its unique style and history. Cagehead begins what the Sculpture Committee projects as a strong, vibrant, and inclusive exhibition program over the next few years. Thanks a lot.
Hello, everybody. I won't add to all the thank yous that were already given, but I do want to highlight what, sorry, that's my fault. That's my king. He heard me. But I do want to highlight everybody's effort to make this happen and say that this was truly an amazingly collaborative event. And I mean, obviously, the star of the night is Raul, but this was a true institutional collaboration in which we were able to profit from the amazing work of the Fund for Park Avenue, and we're really, really happy to be able to have this piece. It's really a contribution to the city. It's part of the work that they always do, but we're very, very proud to have it so close to us and to have been able to be part of this process. But with that, we're going to let Raul start his presentation.
Hello. Thanks, everybody, for coming tonight. I want to thank Jaime for the invitation, Jazz, the Fund for Park Avenue, and America Society. 2 weeks ago, when I started to think about Cagehead presentation, I decided to talk about two concepts. They are inside Cagehead and they are around Cagehead. The street and the collaboration. Street as an inspiration, and it's about the urban landscape. It's about cities, it's about big cities, and at the end of the 80s, I started to take photos from my city, Rio de Janeiro, a group of photos about violence in my city. It's a group of works and about the crisis of public security policies. And after took more than 2,000 photos, I started to produce a few artworks. This one is the first one. It's at Museum of Modern Art, São Paulo, 2001. This another one is 2001, big installation. In 2002, a group show in Rio de Janeiro called Love's House. I curated with Eduardo Coimbra and Ricardo Basbaum, two artists from Rio de Janeiro. This one is a graphic work as a from the same exhibition. And here's at Centro Universitário Maria Antônia, São Paulo, an exhibition, sorry about that, sculptures and photos. Entonces, 2004, Tomiotaki, São Paulo. Rio de Janeiro, 2008. And the second group of works inspired by the city, it's street arrows. What's happened?
Para quem você quer enviar uma mensagem?
Sorry.
Para quem?
What's happened? Sorry. It's okay. It's a group of photos again. It's a documentation. In Rio, we have this hand-painted sign. So it's a lot of paintings in the street with different backgrounds, street arrows, red and white, and it's an obsession to take these photos, like the fences photo. And then, again, after took more than 1,000 photos, I start to produce some paintings, some red and white and yellow sometimes. This is the first one. This is 2014 at Nara Hasler, São Paulo. Here, the fence and the street arrow at Universidade de São Paulo. Please touch my first solo show in New York at Bronx Museum, curated by Sergio Bessa. Another solo show at Nara, São Paulo, when the street arrow became a photo. And here's when the street arrow became a flag, installation in Rio de Janeiro 2020. The second concept is collaboration. Since the beginning, collaboration is so important for me, and my first film from 1995 is a collaboration with 7 artists. It's only one minute video. Let's watch it. Oh, what's happened here? Yeah, the second, another collaboration with a dance company in Rio called Intrépido Trupe. Wow. They invite me to work together, and we did a choreography with my metal sculptures, the fancy sculptures. A dancer put a metal piece above another one and start to play, and then after that I start to create kinetic sculptures, kinetic and interactive sculptures. And this collaboration changed my work. So, and then I start to do the kinetic sculptures like Cage had here. This one is Beware Hot at Nara Rosra Gallery, São Paulo, 2010. My first exhibition with the kinetic sculptures. Here's Hand with Care, 2012. Project, a public project in Praça Tiradentes, Rio de Janeiro, during the Art Rio Art Fair. Big pop-up sculptures made by scaffolding. This is Animal Traction, 2012, a solo show at Museum of Modern Art, Rio de Janeiro. A dark room, small lamps, big shadows, movement again. Here, You Are Here, 2016, solo show at MUBE, Museu Brasileiro de Escultura, a project by Paulo Mendes da Rocha, very important Brazilian architect, iconic building in the city. This is outdoor, and here indoor. A group of sculptures, scaffolding again, inside and outside. Platschau Gallery, Zurich, when I start to do small sculptures with glass bottles, more delicate, more fragile. Outside, inside, solo show in Museu da República, Rio de Janeiro. Group of sculptures at the garden. And another work is inside the gallery. Outside, inside. Another show at Nara Rosra, São Paulo, 2019. Small sculptures, photos, paintings. Here is Empty Head, 2019 at Nara Rosra Gallery, New York. The same flag we have here at the street. Two sculptures in 2020. This is Hourglass, number 8, 2020. Rebel number 2, Rebel number 3. And this is a video. It's about the beginning of Bolsonarismo, when people start to attack Brazilian art. It's a video about people who does not like art, people who want to cancel art. I invite a gun collector to shoot small sculptures. Bang Bang, 2017. Another collaborative works, O Carioca, a magazine about poetry and visual artists, 1995-1998. Agora Art Space in Rio with Eduardo Coimbra and Ricardo Basbal and Luisa Mello. Jacaranda magazine with Gustavo, who is here. Hi, Gustavo, how are you? Thanks for coming. It's a journal about Brazilian art and beyond, Portuguese and English. There's number 0 with Luiz Erbini on the cover. Number 1 with Leonora de Barros on the cover. Number 2, Antônio Dias, Cabelo, Arthur Lescher, Valesca Soares. This one is about Brazilian art under attack, black cover. And number 7, Vitor Arruda. Here, a few images from our group exhibitions at our space at Glória neighborhood in Rio. Oh, here is Endless June. It's a documentary I directed with Francisco Bosco, a Brazilian philosopher, writer, and thinker. It's about the beginning of Bolsonarismo in Brazil. And he invited me to direct with him. And here is the beginning of the film.
No início, para muitos, pareceu um raio de céu azul, aquelas milhões de pessoas nas ruas, erguendo cartazes, enfrentando a repressão policial e ocupando os centros simbólicos de suas cidades, inclusive o Congresso Nacional. Afinal, o país estava ainda em um contexto de crescimento econômico, com desemprego baixo, inflação sob controle e popularidade da presidente em alta. Passados 5 anos, já não é difícil entender as causas dos protestos, nem a sua legitimidade. Já não importa tanto junho enquanto passado. O que importa é pensar nas lições que podemos tirar do sentido geral desse acontecimento. A emergência da sociedade civil como um agente político relevante, capaz de desestabilizar governos, estabelecer pautas sociais e institucionais, impor sua interpretação da realidade e abrir caminhos para mais ou menos democracia. Junho inaugurou uma cultura social do engajamento, mas a participação social corta para os dois lados. Ela não é menos engajada quando deixa de corresponder a determinada perspectiva política e ideológica. O MBL não é menos junho do que o MPL. O Escola Sem Partido não é menos junho do que os estudantes secundaristas que ocuparam as escolas públicas do país. A organização da direita conservadora não é menos junho do que a primavera feminista. Em seu sentido intenso de ataques da sociedade civil contra o sistema político, junho foi percebido como revolucionário. Em seu sentido extenso, enquanto um mês que não terminou, junho teve um devir conservador.
Rato Branco is my current project with Cabelo. It's an art space in Rio at Lapa neighborhood. We produce exhibitions, parties. We have a Bloco de Carnaval, also like a street party, carnival street party. And we have a TV show in YouTube, a conversation with Frederico Coelho, a Brazilian professor and writer, and also a profile on Spotify. We invite musicians, producers, DJs to produce playlists. Another collaboration, Experiência Live Cinema #3 with Lenora de Barros at Mana Theater, New Jersey. Experiência Live Cinema #4 in Rio de Janeiro with Cabelo. A group of paintings, photos, and sculptures. And then we invited more 5 artists to make it like an invasion, hacker invasion at the exhibition during the weekends. So each 5 minutes we turn off the light and then a video projection starts. And then we turn on the light and then turn off the light, another video projections over our works. The new Brazilian flag here starts with this short video, the new American flag. It's about Trump and Trumpism. 2017, the American flag without the stars. And then I cut the middle of the center of the Brazilian flag and create the new Brazilian flag. 2018, a group of works, sometimes photos like this, fabric, composition, photos again. And I decided to enter this long presentation. Sorry about that, and sorry about my broken English, my bad English. I decided to share with you a short interview about Empty Head, the exhibition at Nara Hasler 2 years ago, when I'm connected with my work and then decided to invite me to conceive the public sculpture for Park Avenue and the flag. So it's a short interview here.
O meio de arte vem sofrendo ataques desde o seu nascimento, né? Um embate entre a produção artística e as pessoas que não se interessam pela produção artística, que querem obstruir, que querem apagar, abafar, anular, aniquilar. O campo da arte é tão antigo quanto a arte, né? Essa é a verdadeira história da arte. A história da arte é a história da sobrevivência da arte, da luta pelos espaços de arte. O trabalho da bandeira é um trabalho também sobre a violência, sobre a censura, sobre um momento de vazio. O campo da arte é um campo de conexões. O espectador está sendo chamado agora para um lugar de mais engajamento, de um novo envolvimento mais intenso. Para a construção de uma arte transformadora, a gente não depende apenas da produção dos artistas. A gente precisa de um novo engajamento da audiência. A gente pode pensar o tabu como uma expressão por trás dessas obras, né? Uma vez que o objeto de arte da tradição não deve ser tocado, e eu convido ao toque. Uma bandeira nacional não deve ser alterada, não deve ser violentada, não deve ser modificada. E eu faço uma modificação violenta, retirando um pedaço da bandeira, um pedaço importante, o centro da bandeira, criando um vazio, criando um buraco. O objeto de arte não deve ser destruído. No vídeo Bang Bang, eu atirei intencionalmente em objetos de arte. Eu destruí objetos de arte com projéteis de arma de fogo. Então, acho que a violência é um conceito que está presente nessa exposição. Mas o seu oposto gosto também está presente, que é o cuidado, é o zelo, é o amor, é o interesse, é como fazer algo se perpetuar, como se somar para construir algo maior.
Thank you.
I'm gonna let Jess start with the questions that she prepared, and we can have a conversation with Raul, and then we can open the questions to the public. But before I do that, I wanted to thank you for the amazing presentation. It wasn't as long.
It's too long, it's too long.
It wasn't that long. You were right.
Perfect timing.
I also want to just correct one detail from your presentation, which I think is actually interesting, which is that the first time that I saw your sculptures was not here in Roessler, but it was thanks to your spirit of collaboration. It was in Rio de Janeiro, because Cabello opened your studio. You were away traveling, and because
the second time was here.
The first time was here, yeah. But I do want to highlight that because that talks about how you collaborate with other artists, and colleagues like Cabello were so eager to share not only his own work, but also yours. And, and I was fascinated by it. And then I started talking with Danielle, but that speaks about you as an artist and as a person. So I wanted to bring that up.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, I come from the point of public art, and I think public art necessarily has to be collaborative, just because it's in the public space, so there are so many people, so many stakeholders, so it's kind of inherently collaborative. And so again, thanks to all of the partners who have helped make this wonderful piece happen. And I just want to start thinking, going back to the actual site, because I'm all about site, and the site of Cagehead in the median, sort of in this planter bed in Park Avenue, one of the most famous streets in New York, of course. And connect this to, the idea of your interest in the street, and the street as kind of a point of departure for all your work. But I am interested in this kind of interstitial space, because the median kind of separates two streets. But I love the way that people encounter it, because you have sort of two audiences. You have the pedestrian audience, and I think a lot of them, essentially cross the street, and then you kind of get caught in the middle. And, in New York, everyone's like rushing to get to the other side. And then if you're caught, you're there waiting. And I love that the piece goes back and forth, counting that time down. But then, of course, you have the movement and the street of the vehicles stopping and going at a faster pace. So yeah, I wish you could talk a little bit about that kind of interstitial median space. And I know you've done another work in that area.
Yeah, I think my work is about it's a conversation with the audience, and these recent works, the kinetic and interactive, invites the audience to take part of the work. You have to touch the artwork to start a movement. You have to be a partner of the work. And that's the main idea of this group of works. So it's in the city you have this kind of conversation between the artwork and the audience.
Yeah, I mean, I think in large cities, especially like New York thinking, but as well as Rio, there's a kind of constant negotiation of our bodies in space. We're moving this way and moving that way, flowing with the pedestrian traffic, avoiding the street traffic as well. And so by sort of asking viewers to activate the sculpture, I feel like it's a kind of, what would you call it, a sort of practice for testing out this idea of the negotiation of public space. How hard are you going to push it?
That's the question, yeah.
Right, and then what's the reaction going to be? So yeah, I think that the metaphor of movement is very, very powerful in the work.
It's stop and go all the time. No?
Yeah, yeah. Sure. One of the other things that I was struck in your presentation was really seeing the smaller work as well, because they're essential. And one of the questions is, do you think of them as models or do you think of them as miniatures? Because for me, seeing the work outside and the materiality is so much in conversation with the outdoor urban space, the buildings, the scaffolding, the infrastructure. But these smaller works inside have a different feel. And so I guess that's kind of a question, if you see them as models or experiments, or what their relationship is to the larger pieces, or are they just two different ways to explore?
I always do models, 3D models, small models, but I do small sculptures, and there is different from the model. The model is the beginning of the big one, and the small sculpture is a small sculpture.
Yeah, so they function differently for you. One's more of a test, and the other's more of a idea.
Sorry.
Well, the smaller ones the models are more of a test, and the smaller ones perhaps are more like their own conceptual idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I think there's something really strong about changes in scale like that, and of course, with the models.
I would love to work only with the big one, but it's not possible.
Bigger isn't always
I love to do
better.
the small ones.
Bigger isn't always better.
We live with bottles and glass all the time, and sometimes it's
for me.
The real life comes into the work, and then
They feel more accessible because they for me they remind me of kind of experiments, and the bottle's really familiar. Whereas when you see the large piece, there's kind of like, oh, am I really gonna go try this? And I think there's that kind of maybe fear and anticipation.
And can I add to that also that it's interesting that in a lot of the smaller ones, Raul works with another type of, there's a fragility in the large ones, which has to do with the kinetic aspect. Pushing such a big structure, we feel fragile. Our body feels fragile. But in the small ones, you still have that fragility because it's typically, they're not attached. They're many times on bottles, so they're very fragile on themselves, even though they're not gonna hurt us. It's another type of fragility that he keeps in all the works, even though the scale is very different.
Right. It's a fear of your body, and then fear, am I gonna break this? Sort of.
Yeah, it's a rational interaction all the time. It's not only about the body. You have to think and then touch. The big ones and the small ones.
Right, which I feel like is a little bit like a metaphor for negotiating public space. You don't want to just jump into it, and you want to think before you act. But unfortunately, not everyone does that.
But this one is very safe. The big one.
Not to suggest
Please
otherwise.
touch the artwork.
Please touch it.
It's different from the museums.
Yes.
It's a public work.
Absolutely. And in that movement, I think I definitely see a lot of play and humor in that. And I can see that going back to some of the earlier works, really starting from the 7 artists.
Yeah, there is a lot of, that's a kind of visual gag.
Right.
It's a cartoon. It's about an exhibition with artists, not paintings.
Artists as paintings? Or artists
as paintings, yes.
Or artists as kinetic sculptures, essentially, using some of the same ideas of balance and hang, and movement, which it was really fun to see that. And then really saying, okay, I do see his sense of humor coming through all this work.
I have a question, if that's okay. Raul, we saw in your presentation how much the city is an inspiration for you, right?
Yes.
And how much you think about your pieces in terms of something that is going to be in dialogue and interaction with the city. And you spent a lot of time in New York also, and you know New York very well. Obviously, you know Rio.
Only 2 years. 2 years.
Well, that's I'm more than most people, you know. My point is that you're presenting this work not in a city in which you only came as a tourist, but a city that you know more than, than as a visiting spot. How do you feel, how do you expect this sculpture to function in your city? How, with regards, what expectations do you have in terms of the interactions? How do you feel is different from Rio de Janeiro?
Oh, it's a difficult question. I don't have any public sculpture in Rio yet. I'm working on a project, but this is the first big one. And I think for me, it's a new experience. It's the beginning. I think we have to talk more about this project, and I don't know. I will spend a few days here. The next days, I'd want to do some films and photos with Geronimo. Hi, Geronimo. We are shooting and thinking about. It's the beginning. It's a new experience for me, and I don't know about the next steps. I have a lot of different projects, bigger than this one. But
well, I actually
now I'm happy to be here to talk about Cagehead and to celebrate Cagehead with you. It's my time to think about this sculpture, not to the other projects.
Yeah, I mean, but I really love that you said you need to spend time with it, because I think. I mean, all artworks in general, but I think particularly public artworks, they only start when they're first presented. They take on life with time, with reception, how people interact with them. Using them, interacting with them in ways you never would have imagined. It really brings it to life. So there's a way in which, I mean, I found as a curator, you work on something for months and months, and you think you know it, but you don't really know it until it's out there, and then you have the public teach you about it. So it's nice to hear that you're already working that way.
It's the beginning. I think I will learn a lot with Cagehead, and probably will change my work.
And what's also interesting about this installation is some of the outdoor work that I've seen has a lot more space around it. So it really has like a kind of presence that, that draws you in, whereas this, you kind of stumble upon it in the street, I think. I mean, obviously many people are going to go see it on purpose. But yeah, I think that's also kind of an interesting contrast, and it'll be interesting to see how people react to it that way. Whereas some of the other pieces that are installed in these beautiful like grass fields, one of the highlights of those, I think, is the shadows make drawings on the ground, essentially, which is really stunning.
May I add that in that regard, the beautiful and the wonderful idea of the Fund for Park Avenue, of having sculptures in the mall, I think dialogues especially beautifully with Raul's piece because of the kinetic element, because it's in the middle of Park Avenue, which is an avenue of movement. It's not just any random street, it's a street that goes in both ways. So there's a very particular elegance in the way in which the sculpture is proposing a movement horizontally and the street is coming up and down, and that is something that works beautifully. I mean, and And I'm very happy this is the first time that you're putting it publicly because.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's it.
Should we open to questions of the audience? Jess, do you have any other one?
I had one last one. But
Yes, let's go. Let's go.
Okay. So just as, again, a public art person who works a lot in metal, I'm really curious about your choice to use Corten steel here versus I see you did some amazing pieces with scaffolding as well. And of course, the two have very different, well, they have different aesthetics, but also different connotations. And so I just wanted to ask you why you chose Corten steel.
Scaffolding was the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
When I started to do the first kinetic sculptures, I look the first sculptures and so it will works in a bigger size.
Yeah.
So how can I do fast, bigger sculptures for next month? And then I decided to produce these pop-up sculptures with scaffolding. So the MUBE exhibition you were here, curated by Daniel, help me. They invite me and they invite me to prepare an exhibition in 3 months, and then my solution is to work with the scaffolding, and then I produce the big sculptures, and then I change to the same forms but with different material, the corten steel. So the scaffolding was the beginning to produce the big ones.
Yeah, that makes sense. Going from
the small to the big with the scaffolding.
Yeah.
And then back to the corten steel.
And also that something that you mentioned about the use of steel in the past is that you like the idea of it being corroded by time, and it's like dialoguing with the city and in the way that it's changing materials, right?
Right. Well, and yeah, I mean, Corten steel's quite interesting in that regard because, of course, the reaction of the patina actually seals it and makes it stronger. So it is kind of oxidizing and aging, but it's not going to corrode through. I mean, ideally, it's not going to corrode through in holes and decompose, but that patina actually makes it stronger, which for me is a really interesting material because it's almost like a camouflage, like it looks old, but it actually has all this strength in it. So.
Thanks for the explanation. Corten steel is exactly like this.
Yeah. Anyway, should we open to any audience questions? Does anybody want to ask anything, make any comment?
Sorry?
In the mic, please.
Do people actually touch?
Yes.
Cage head. You've seen people come by and touch it, because I passed by. I was a little intimidated. And
so do it, Mauricio, please.
Thanks. Yeah.
We are all invited to touch the artwork.
You should put a sign saying, "Please do touch."
Well, let's talk about that.
Yep.
Today is the first day.
Yeah.
Hi, sorry, I have a kind of long question.
For me?
Yes.
Thanks.
We have like a culture of decorum when it comes to art, about not touching the art. You go to a museum and it's one of the main things you remember is that you don't touch the art. You look at the art. You go to see like the Mona Lisa, she's behind a glass. So you make sure that you don't touch it. And your art intentionally breaks that decorum and invites people to experiment for themselves and to be a little bit of a rebel, I guess, and to participate and become one with like the art making process. But from transferring from a gallery into the street where there is a different sense of decorum as well and behavior that goes around, and the sculpture Cagehead is arguably in one of the most beautiful streets in New York City. And that brings with itself also a sense of decorum. Like when you walk, there's a pedestrian, you respect the walkway. are you intentionally, I guess, juxtaposing the idea of what you're supposed to do versus what you want to do? Because I guess in a way, art plays on that like kid-like and that intention of play itself.
Oh, I think there is a long tradition of interactive art from the 60s. So my work is connected with this group of works. I'm not the first artist to invite the audience to be a part of the work.
Yeah, of course.
So the idea here is, please touch the artwork.
And do you feel like that for you, in a sense, also like questions the spaces that they're in?
Sorry?
Like, do you feel like the invitation to touch the art brings into question like the behavior of the spaces that the art itself is in?
I really don't know. It's more about an experience. I like the idea of an artwork is an open experience. It's a conversation. So we have it's about an experience between the audience and the artwork. We have to work together. It's here is the beginning of the history of this sculpture. I probably need your collaboration. Understand? It's a open work. It's an experience. It's a sculpture in the street, on the street. That's the idea, to put art on the city. And
yeah, we'll see. Anybody else has any other question?
Raul, just to mention, was very moved to see your artwork right here in front of America Society, that I always think is like your front yard, but also on the side on the street, your flag is flying there. So it's like a little mini Brazilian exhibit. So I'm so moved just to have your artwork outdoors of this wonderful
thank you.
America Society.
Any more questions or comments?
Yes.
Is there any limit to the size that you can build your sculptures?
Repeat.
Limit to the size. In other words, can you build those, or would you like, do you have an ambition to make them even larger than the one that's here on Park Avenue?
I have three bigger than this one. I'm working in bigger projects, so sometimes I think I want to do a sculpture bigger than a building. Yeah. That's my dream, my project. I want to do like a building.
How do you get people to move it then?
Yeah, I need your collaboration. Let's sing together, man.
Like we say in English, the sky is the limit, right?
Yeah, the sky is the limit.
Anyway, I don't know if anybody has any more questions. Otherwise, I think we can all go celebrate with drinks. I want to again thank very much the Fund for Park Avenue for making this possible, along with Galeria Nara Ressler, whose support made it fundamental. And we are thrilled, honored, and super happy to have this sculpture in front of us. And thank you, Raul. Thank you, Raul, for your idea.
Thank you, people. Don't forget, it's all about a conversation. It's all about sharing.
And I encourage everyone to, if you're in the reception, take a look out the window to see the work. There's a great view.
Yes, thank you. It's time to celebrate. Let's have some drinks.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Bye-bye.